Welcome to Live with Anton Gunn. This is Wednesday morning, the greatest day on earth, because I'm here and you are here for me to share with you some incredible insights as I do every week. But this week is an extra special week. This is what I call the groundbreaking week of insights and learning for all of you. And what I'm excited about sharing, and the reason why this is titled the $914.7 billion problem of workplace injustice, is really around the research that I have released this week. So on Monday, June 10th, to the entire world, we have issued our first ever national research study on a topic that we have been studying for years, but the first time we put some qualitative and quantitative data behind it, and that is workplace injustice. Now, when I say workplace injustice, I want you to understand that I'm going to walk through some content about how your employees might be experiencing work every single day. I'm also going to tell you that you might have experienced some of these things. And this program could be a little bit triggering for some of you who have experienced injustice in the workplace. But nonetheless, I had to capture this data. I had to do this research because for so many years as a keynote speaker, I would stand on stage and give an amazing keynote about how leaders can build diverse, high-performing teams and a world-class workplace culture, and how you can become a leader that everybody admires. That's what I solve for people in the organization. But in order to solve that, I have to talk about the problem. And I talk about the problem of bad leadership and bad culture. And it never fails. At the end of a keynote, someone walks up to me, and not just one person, I'm talking multiple people who come up to me and say, you know, when you talked about that bad leader, you described my supervisor. When you talk about unfairness, that's what I experience in the workplace every day. My leader doesn't listen to me. My leader doesn't care about me. These are the things that I hear every day from people after speeches, even in my DMs, in the comments section of many of the things that I post on Instagram and also on LinkedIn. So here's what I wanted to do, is I really wanted to understand the problem of injustice. Where does it show up? What does it look like? What does it feel like? But I knew if I just did that part and I talked about the social impact, the human impact, those of us who have warm hearts and are caring leaders, we would immediately get it. But for those leaders who only thing they care about is the bottom line, this quarter's shareholder value or the end of the year shareholder value, they wouldn't care too much about the human impact or the social impact of injustice. They may a little bit, but not a whole lot. So I needed to see if I could quantify the economic impact of injustice. And boy, was I surprised with what I would learn. And that is the combined economic impact of injustice that we were able to quantify was over $914 billion a year. Yes, you heard me right, billion with a B. So what I'm going to do today, and I'm going to try to do this in the next 15 minutes, is I want to share with you some of the insights in the report. I'm also going to share with you at the end how you can get your own copy of the report, how if you would like for me to come to your organization and help you all through this type of analysis and data, how you can reach out to me. And I'm going to give you a free assessment that you could take if you want to know if your organization might be experiencing some level of a worn down withered, toxic workplace culture. So let me jump right in, and I'm going to try to do something here that I normally don't do when it comes to this type of work. I never, ever, ever, ever share slides. But today, I'm sharing slides, and I wanted to be on the small screen so you can see this data on the big screen. And this is the State of the Workplace Injustice Report 2024. It was done by me, Anton Gunn, and my firm, the 937 Strategy Group. And we partnered with Workforce Lifecycle Analytics. So I want you to know this is backed by academic rigor. This is not some run-of-the-mill, lowbrow Instagram survey. This is not that. I didn't use SurveyMonkey to use this. I hired a firm with PhDs in psychology, organizational psychology, who do this for a living to assess issues in organizations and their culture. These were my partners in this project. So I really want you to see what this data says and how impactful it is. So let's go ahead and jump right in and get started. So number one, a little bit of background. I want you to just understand that over the past 30 years, the American workplace has changed dramatically. But what hasn't changed dramatically is how we manage people. Like we literally are holding people to an 8-hour workday that was set up in the 1900s and not like the late 1900s. I'm talking about 1909, 1910. Henry Ford created the 8-hour workday and the 5-day work week. Think about that. 100 years, we've been running companies and organizations off of the 8-hour day. Some industries, it's a 12-hour day. Another industry is you work 2 days and you get 3 days off. But the model is built on an industrial society model of a society that doesn't really exist the same way anymore, at least not in most industries. So we are operating like it's 30 years ago. We're also managing like it's 30 years ago. The same performance evaluations, the same tools and tricks that we use for employee engagement and how we organize ourselves in the workplace has not changed. But because it hasn't changed, we have not built inclusive work environments. We have inequitable policies, inequitable practices, and a place that leaves people feeling excluded. And as you will learn in this research, that they feel disrespected and they feel like it's unfair, and overall, it's an injustice. So when I say injustice, I first wanted to define for you what injustice is in our research. And we have put together what I like to call the 8 domains of injustice. These are the 8 areas in which employees experience injustice in the workplace. So I put them on the screen and I want to read them to you. And I'm going to tell you about each one of these domains. The first one is incivility. So this is like indirect or direct deviant behavior that violates social norms. So let me give you an example of a social norm. That if I needed to send you an email, a social norm would be me to craft that email and send it directly to you because I needed to tell you something. But if I don't like you and I want to be incivil to you, then what I would do, instead of just sending you that email directly, I'm going to blind copy your boss on the email so that he's aware that I'm telling you something. On the sneak tip, I'm blind copying him. In addition to that, maybe I don't like your entire team. So instead of just sending you an email directly, I'm going to CC the entire org chart and put them all on the same email. Now, everybody's getting emails that are unnecessary that they don't want in their inbox. Now, I know you all have experienced that level of incivility, like being blind copied or knowing later that somebody was blind copied on an email that you thought was for your eyes only. Or maybe you did that to some other people. We all know that's a violation of social norms. Now I'm going to move to the second one, bullying, which is self-explanatory. We have seen and heard about this in the workplace far too often. So many people get bullied in the workplace. So many people have challenges in the workplace because they're being targeted by people. In addition to that, you got ostracism. that people are feeling excluded, that you don't get invited to the happy hour party and they leave you off of the invite, or they do something social together over the weekend and they don't include you. Now, all of these things I've talked about before, but I wanted to put them on the scene and run through them real quickly so you can get an understanding of what it looks like. Abuse and aggression, that's verbal or physical behavior that is not wanted to intimidate people. Failed allyship, which is your coworker says that they have your back through and through. They're your ride or die. We've been working here together for years. And then someone does something to you that is unjust or unfair, and your coworker doesn't intervene. They don't step up. They don't help. They let you get mistreated. The other one, harassment. Straight up harassment. We know what harassment looks like. Unwelcome, unwanted behavior, snide remarks, doing all kinds of personal things, crossing personal boundaries, unwanted touching. We know sexual harassment is one that's real in this space. Bystander behavior, which is a person who sees you get mistreated unjustly, but they stand beside to just watch because they secretly covet your job. So they really want you to get reamed out and get fired or quit because they really want your job. Or maybe they're just afraid to say, if I intervene, it's going to happen to me. So they rather you be the target of the boss's anger rather than them being the target of the boss's anger. And the last one is undermining. Y'all know what it means to undermine people and seeing people get undermined at work. So those are what we define as the domains of injustice, defining workplace injustice. Now, let me move very quickly. We did a national study, demographically focused. It looks like the United States of America. Almost 700 people responded to our survey, 70% white, 12% Black, Hispanic and Asian comprise about 13% of it. We had a small percentage of Alaska Natives and Asian American and Pacific Islanders. Okay. We also had about, 50% women, 50% men, and a small percentage chose not to identify. But I want to tell you, when I say we emailed a sample of the American workforce, the average age of our respondents was 37. We had 65% that were younger than 40. And not only that, 63% of them have 5 years or less tenure in the organization. So these are the people that you are hiring on a regular basis. 15% identified as having a disability, and 19% self-identified, again, as the LGBTQ plus community. So the average salary was about $55,000 a year. So this is a sample representative survey. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about it. Number one is that everyone is experiencing injustice. It doesn't matter your race, your age, your gender identity, sexual orientation. We found that everybody's experiencing injustice. And let me just tell you how much they're experiencing it. That 66% of people we surveyed say they experienced injustice in the last year. 23% told us that they experience injustice every month. So this is just not a some people problem or a women problem or a person of color problem, that this is a people problem. All people are experiencing injustice. So I also want to share with you that in the research that we collected, we didn't just do quantitative data, we did qualitative data analysis. We got over 1,261 comments to our open-ended questions. And the answers to those questions summarize themselves around certain themes. The themes of disrespect, supervisor mistreatment, and ostracism are the ones that were the most prevalent. Disrespect, supervisor mistreatment, and ostracism. Now I want to unpack these three domains. So the theme disrespect is very simply is when an individual is treated with contempt or a lack of courtesy, rude behavior. It can be harmful to their well-being and their performance. Employees may suffer from a lack of confidence, emotional well-being, disengagement from work. In extreme cases, employees may wish to leave the company. Now, it could look like demeaning in front of coworkers or subordinates. insults or insensitive jokes, interrupting people with comments, acting rude, lacking consideration for other people. There's all kinds of things that we saw. And here's one of the direct quotes that we were able to capture in our qualitative analysis. That it's been constantly looked down upon by my opinions, for my opinions and my ideas. There have been snide remarks about my gender. I feel that it's affected the way that I look at myself, and I realize that I second guess myself a lot more. I'm more timid, and I feel I hesitate more to share my ideas and thoughts. That's what happens when people are getting disrespected in the workplace. Now, theme 2 is supervisor mistreatment. They experience mistreatment from the person that they report to. They're either harsh, or overly critical, aggressive. They also feel like that their supervisor lacks consideration and doesn't support them, don't treat people fairly. They lose trust in their supervisor. They feel unsafe at work, and they start seeking employment elsewhere. Okay? Unethical behavior is what people are experiencing from their supervisor as well. Now, here was a comment that we received. Probably just a sheer rudeness and hate that sees from some supervisors, as some people think that managing with people with fear is more effective than with trust, something I disagree with. The venom they feel makes one authoritative ends up not being only affecting the work environment, but self-esteem outside the work. As you can see, we didn't edit these people's comments. So if the grammar wasn't right, then we left it like it was. No cleanup here. These are verbatim comments from people. Supervisor mistreatment is the second theme. Now, if you've experienced any of these themes, I want you to let me know in the comment. Or maybe you've done this to somebody. Be honest about it. I dare you. Theme 3 is ostracism. That means excluding people from the workplace group projects or discussions or other social activities. It's like high school. Somebody told us that in the comments. It's kind of like high school. If you're not in a cool kids club, you're excluded. Ostracism can have a damaging effect on employee well-being. It can leave them feeling unwanted, isolated, and unimportant. It can carry on into their personal lives, causing adverse health outcomes. Yes, people told us that they have bad health outcomes because of the stress and anxiety from the ostracism that they feel at work. So when you ignore certain individuals, you create cliques in the workplace, excluding people from social activities, leaving people out of work discussions that really involve them. That's ostracism. Here's a direct quote, comment in our survey. Wow, I would have to say that being isolated at work has the most negative effect on my life. It can be very lonely and sad to be mostly by yourself at work. This sadness carries into my personal life. I dread going to work most days because of this. Real comments, y'all, from real people. Now, we also found that workplace injustice accounts for about 14% of turnover intention. That when people experience injustice, they intend to quit. 14% higher. So they don't just quit. Sometimes they disengage, but also they do other disruptive things in the workplace. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about counterproductive workplace behaviors. Now, this number is 53%, and I'm sorry my graph doesn't look clear on this screen, but 53% of people told us that they do counterproductive workplace behaviors in the workplace. They use work time to complete personal business. They told others that their work is a bad place to work. They avoid people. They pretend to be busy. They think about quitting their job regularly. They're physically stressed out. They delay completing tasks. They started an argument or conflict at work, sabotaging. They feel depressed, or they use sickness as an excuse not to work. Now, I know nobody watching this has ever used sickness as a reason not to come to work because you don't like people in the workplace. But I'm telling you right now, it's real in this research. Now, here's some other organizational costs. I told you about 14% of turnover by injustice, but I want you to see that 28% of employee disengagement can be explained by injustice. So when people get undermined, harassed, or abused, or they experience a lot of bystander behavior, they'll just straight up check out. They'll check out. Now, here's what it costs organizations. And I really want to get to the money, and I'm going to close it here in a couple minutes. That if you have a 14% higher turnover rate due to injustice, I want you to know that if you have 500 employees in your organization, the cost of turnover is going to cost you about $500,000. If you got 5,000 employees, it's about $4.29 million. And for all U.S. employers, it's $136.8 billion. Now, when I say cost of turnover, I'm talking about hard costs and soft costs. So let me explain to you what a hard turnover cost is. If somebody quits their job, you got to spend money on posting the ad. Then you got to take time away from work to interview that person. Then if you need to sign them with a signing bonus, you got to spend money on their hiring bonus. Not only that, if you need to help them to relocate, you need to spend money to help them to relocate. Those are hard costs. Now, here are the soft costs. The knowledge gap that you're going to have because you're going to spend a lot of time training up that employee when the employee that you had already knew how to do the job. But now you're going to lose training time and dollars trying to get somebody up to speed. You also could just lose the institutional knowledges that they know where things are, and you're going to spend more time trying to cover up for, that losing that old employee to get a new employee. So those are the hard and soft costs that you would see. And yes, it is $136.8 billion a year in lost costs due to turnover because of injustice. Now, here's the bigger number, the cost of disengagement. See, we were able to quantify that employees will just check out. They won't quit. That previous slide told you if they quit, it's going to cost you $136 billion. But if they just stay at work and do the bare minimum every day, that they don't even try, that they don't do their part to work hard, to come in early or to stay late, volunteer for extra projects, go above and beyond. If they just do the bare minimum, they disengage and check out. If you got 500 employees, this costs you about $2.5 million a year, almost $2.5 million. If you got 5,000 employees, almost $25 million a year that this is costing you. And yes, for the entire U.S. workforce, $777.9 billion due to disengagement, people checking out. Another word for disengagement is quiet quitting, which was the buzzword from 2 years ago. But people will check out and disengage and lose their productivity. They won't work as hard. So when you add the 136.8 and the $777.9 billion, you get that $914.7 billion number of what injustice is costing American employers. Now, I'm getting ready to close with this because I want you to see these numbers, but I want you to understand I'm behind this study. Now, when I say I'm behind this study, I invested the money to hire these researchers to do this level of due diligence about workplace injustice. Because far too long, I've seen this happen in so many organizations. I've worked with over 240 companies over my career, 14 Fortune 500 companies, several state, local, and federal government agencies. And I've heard more stories than I can count about people experiencing things in the workplace that I would deem an injustice, that they would deem an injustice. And any prudent person to look at that would say, you know what, that's unfair. That's unjust. Therefore, an injustice. But this all started for me very early in my career when I was doing some community work against a local hospital and saw so many of the nurses tell me stories about how they were being treated in the workplace. It continued a decade later when I was working in the Obama administration, talking to federal employees who had been there through 4 presidents and they could tell you about how year over year working in government became more uncivil and that people were checking out, they were quitting. Think about what happens in post offices when we devalue the people who deliver our mail, when they get mistreated by their higher ups. All of these things are injustices. So my motivation is I believe that everyone deserves to work in a world-class workplace, to be valued, to be respected, to be included, and to be visible. And I want to make sure that we understand how much is it costing us when we don't have those kind of environments, when we don't do the right thing, when we don't put things in a place where people feel valued, feel respected, included, and visible, when they don't work for leaders that are respectful and inclusive and don't mistreat them. What is the cost? We know the human cost. I know the human cost. I hope you do. But I wanted you to see the economic impact of this. So that's why I did this study. Now, I want to give you a chance to get a copy of this study. So if you would like a copy of the report, the Workplace Injustice Report, I want you to go to workplaceinjusticereport.com. 3 words, workplaceinjusticereport.com. Give me some information so I make sure I know who I'm sending it to. You can get the report, download it, read it, let me know what you think. Give me some feedback. I love to have it, love to hear it. And if you would like for me to come and share with your leaders in your organization about this report, the findings, and how they can work to prevent having an unjust culture in their workplace, let me know. Because I do offer solutions to what you can do right now to reduce the amount of injustice in your workplace, thus saving you money, saving your team, saving your culture, and building a better workplace. I can help you with that. Or if you're wondering right now, you know what, Anton, I think I got a good culture. I want to read the report, but I think our culture is fine. Think is not knowing. So instead of you just thinking, here's what I like for you to do, is I want you to take our workplace culture assessment. We have a free, complimentary, and confidential assessment to take to see where your culture lies. This is really only for senior leaders. I want the leaders to know where their culture is, and the questions are geared in that way. So if you go to workplacecultureassessment.com, 3 words, workplacecultureassessment.com, take our free assessment, and you will get some immediate results to know how your culture ranks. Is it withered or is it world class? Or somewhere in between. But more importantly, I'm going to provide you some solutions on what you can do about it. So there you have it. The research that I did this week, the groundbreaking news. The reason why I call it groundbreaking news is because it's already been written about in Yahoo Finance. It's been written out about in several other publications. We've been contacted by a Forbes magazine reporter who's going to publish a story about Black men's mental health in the workplace and cite our report. This is good stuff, y'all. This is big stuff that we all need to solve together, particularly leaders who lead teams in organizations and want to retain their top talent, keep them engaged, keep them productive, but most importantly, keep them celebrating your brand and supporting your brand rather than tearing it down. So I hope this has been insightful for you. I hope you got some value out of this today. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I hope you did. And I hope you understand my passion about doing this work. The State of the Workplace Injustice Report is available for you right now at workplaceinjusticereport.com. Please get a copy. Please share it. Please encourage other people to get a copy and share this video with someone who you think would get value out of it. With that, I want to thank you for watching. See y'all next Wednesday. I got a keynote shortly, so I'm getting ready to head down and rock the house in Charleston, South Carolina for a keynote where I'll be talking about some of this content and lots of other things to help these leaders grow in real time and to continue to move forward. So I want to thank you for watching. See you next Wednesday. Everybody have a fantastic day.